It's not easy to do, to turn the camera on yourself or make sure you make notes every day to tell your story, but storytelling is very, 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 very important. Even if you have 0 followers, right? Maybe you have 5 followers and they're all your family and friends. It's going to help you see the path you've been on. It's going to help you see the journey you went through from start to present.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step.
Just let go.
All right, everyone. I am excited to share that the Renegade Brand Bootcamp is back. We are getting ready for the first program in 2021. However, it has changed. It is new and improved. It is now the Renegade Accelerator. Are you ready to accelerate your life? Or maybe your career is in a season of expansion. Applications are now open for the 2021 Renegade Brand Bootcamp with a new name, introducing the Renegade Accelerator. I think we can all use a reset after 2020. This program is for you if you're ready to take action on your Why Not Now idea. Maybe that means starting the company, launching the podcast, writing the book, or doing more public speaking, even if it is virtually. Maybe you're in the corporate world and you want to inject your why into what you're doing. At the end of the day, that's exactly what creates connection. And connections convert. My life work is to help guide women through this very stage in their lives, down the black diamond mountains of business and life. I see superpowers in people that they don't necessarily see in themselves yet. Many years ago, I went to Mark Cuban and I asked him for some investment advice. I thought I was going to get some real estate or stock market kind of advice. No. He said, invest in yourself. Invest in your own growth, invest in yourself, and bet on yourself. This is the best ROI you will ever find. The Renegade Accelerator is the perfect opportunity to invest in yourself. This program truly is the career love of my life. The reason why I love the program so much is because I'm able to create a mosaic, a collection of like-minded, like-hearted, driven women who come together to level up. Past renegades have gone on to make millions of dollars, appear on the Today Show, and accelerate their life and career in a way they never imagined was possible. They learned the renegade mentality directly from me, and I share everything I've learned over the past 20 years in business. It's equal parts education, collaboration, accountability, and community. So if you're a renegade and you're on your way to greatness, I want to help you get there a little faster. I want to guide you through this accelerator. We are accepting applications for our 2021 program, and you're welcome to check out everything about the program at renegadeaccelerator.com. Or if you just remember the old name better and it's a little easier for you, you can still head that direction too. It's the same destination, renegadebrandbootcamp.com. At the very least, if you're considering this program, if you're interested, just sign up for our emails because I will walk you through the process in helping you determine if this is the right fit for you and if now is the right time for you. Sometimes on the show, we throw a Hail Mary. We reach out to people, have no idea if they're even going to get our message, and ask them to come on the show. In this case, with today's guest, that's exactly what happened. We have Jason Mraz. Now, I'm not sure if you grew up with him, but I sure did. And this was a bit of a Hail Mary because Richard, as most of you know, my husband, who I also work with, he's a musician, he reached out to Jason's camp, and you know what? They were down. They were game. Let's play. So Jason and I had a chat. Little did Jason know we go way back. We go back to possibly the most difficult time in my life. And that was a time I was navigating a lot of adversity. And one of his songs, which is titled A Beautiful Mess, was on my playlist. You know that playlist where you just play it over and over and over and it gets you through a certain time? I think this one was called Innovate Your Life 2011. So we had a connection that he didn't even know we had yet. But what he shares in this conversation just pushed me up that loyalty ladder. I am a fan, but I'm also in awe, really, of this human being because he is so multi-dimensional, but he has brought it all together. He has his foundation. He has his award-winning, incredible music, and you'll hear more about that in his new album. But he also has a farm, the Mraz Family Farm. So we talk about how he has been able to kind of find the intersection of where these all connect, how he got here, how he got his start. His why not now moment was something that you could probably relate to yourself. And it was a dream and it was an idea. And he just followed the adventure, although it made no logical sense. And if he hadn't, we probably wouldn't know who he was. His new album is Look for the Good, and you have to check it out. A lot of people probably don't realize how much of an entrepreneur Jason actually is. So his farm, he's got avocados, he's got bees. He invited us out sometime to have some avocado toast in his Southern California farm. And we've tried his chocolate. His chocolate's actually amazing. You've got to check it out. But we talk about business. We talk about the business side of what he does. And when you start to blend art with business, which is really art and science, and how he remains creative, yet also is keeping his eye on that business ball. Jason is an ultimate storyteller. So he gives us a few tangible tips on storytelling. He talks about integration and how to blend different aspects of your life. So Jason shows us a look under the hood of what has happened in his planning meetings, in the vision sessions where he brings together his foundation crew and team with his farm team and his music and entertainment team, and how they've come together in the literal roadmap, you're going to hear it all, of how they were able to arrive at one vision, one mission, how they're all aligned and feeling motivated to head in the same direction for maximum impact. If you're feeling stuck right now, Jason has a prescription on how to get you unstuck. He talks about how it's worked for him and the things that he's done too. And he also shares how he tries ideas on, how he decides when to let things happen versus make them happen, and kind of give himself a glimpse into his own possible future and what that does for him to help him make decisions and inform the next step. I hope you can hear the grin in my voice because this was an absolute joy. This is the type of person you just want to hang out with, and this is a wide-ranging conversation. So enjoy. Here's Jason Mraz. Being able to design my own day and do it in the most efficient way is a non-negotiable for me. I'm a bit of a time management nerd, so when I find something that allows me to be more efficient and effective to get the most out of my day, I want to share it with everyone. So here's the scoop. I have a new tool in my productivity tool belt, and it's called Monday.com. My team and I have never felt more organized professionally and personally. And my to-do list is no longer the boss of me. I feel more in control because every project, initiative, date, and task is captured and organized in one place. And my team is in the loop and involved every step of the way. We are in lockstep. Monday.com is like having a brand new operating system. Everything has its own home, deadline. You can see the team members associated with the tasks, and it's color coordinated, so you can easily navigate your own task list. We all have multifaceted jobs, businesses, and lives. With Monday, you're able to keep all of these components organized in their own compartments, but you're also one click away from seeing the big picture and how they all integrate together. Creating systems and procedures within your day and business saves a lot of time. For example, my team and I have a dedicated Monday.com board for this very podcast. Did you know that there are 28 steps involved in getting one podcast ready for air? It's the same exact process every single time. And it's a system that we have put into place. So we know the various key steps are assigned to certain people, and we've mapped out the entire process from start to finish within this one board. This allows us to be streamlined. It cuts back on the amount of emails exchanged as well as the amount of meetings needed. One feature I love is that my social media content calendar is built inside of Monday.com. I finally have one that I actually use, I like, and it's embedded into my overall calendar as well. Another feature we use every single day is the Google Doc integration. You know I love a good spreadsheet. I can pull them into Monday.com and edit them right there versus having 97 tabs open on my computer, which is extremely distracting and inefficient. If how we spend our days is how we spend our lives, then I can't think of anything more important than using the time in our days wisely. Head to hey.monday.com/Amy Jo Martin to start your free trial today. That's hey.monday.com/Amy Jo Martin. Jason, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for joining me today. And in the spirit of why not now, let's hop right in. Can you tell me about a time when you had a big decision to make and you asked yourself, why not now? We'll dissect that day, that minute, that hour, that season on how you went from idea to action.
Yes. Thank you for having me on your program and allowing me to remember this fork in the road, this pivotal fork in the road that I had when I was 21. I was in college. I was enrolled at Longwood University in Farmville, Virginia, and the landscape is very much Farmville, Virginia. It's a farm community that is basically has a population of college kids, but when college is out, it is just basically a vacant farmland. So for a young man, 21, who has this dream of being a musician and sort of taking his music around the world, Farmville seems the least likely place to do that. But I enrolled in that college because I knew that I could live on my student loans, I could eat at the cafeteria, I could learn as much about music history and just improve my education, which would ultimately enhance or improve my songwriting. So I knew I was enrolled in college because I wanted to be a songwriter. Well, as a reward to myself for applying to college, getting the loans, and I wanted to do it independent of my parents in case college didn't work out, I didn't put the burden on them. I would be the one responsible to pay off the loans, which was good and bad because it gave me the freedom to decide how I was going to use college to my benefit. And as a reward before starting the semester, I visited California because I'd never seen the West Coast. I thought, I'm going to go, and I spent New Year's Eve in California, and I was blown away by the geography of the land, the topography of the land, all the different tree varieties, the way the sun was setting. It was New Year's, but it still felt like summertime. I thought, oh my gosh, I cannot believe this is the best kept secret in the U.S. is this California, this climate, and this all the agriculture out here, et cetera. And it just felt new, whereas the East Coast feels very rooted in tradition, very grounded in tradition. And I grew up on the East Coast. So that whole idea of newness for a songwriter and for an artist was just like, oh my gosh, that my head was just filled with all these ideas. So I went back to Farmville to begin my studies, and I could not turn off this voice in my head. It was like, you need to go back to California. Like, I sense that there are relationships to be made, that there are adventures to be had that will improve your songwriting. So you should go to California. And I said, okay, maybe in the summer. I'll be bi-coastal. I'll do college in the spring and fall, and in the summer I'll live in California. And the voice in my head said, no, you need to do this right now. Go now. Why not now? I thought, I'm in school. That's why not now. Let me just do what I'm supposed to do. And the nagging voice says, no, you need to go right now. And it was almost as if there was another person in the room with me. The voice was so obvious to me. And even though I was trying to put as much clarity on the situation, like, no, I'm in school. I'm here. This is a good thing for me. I need to do this first. I'm committed to this schooling. The voice in my head said, man, you got to go. Why not now? Why not now? So spring break comes around. It's early March in collegiate terms. That's spring break. And I packed my car with everything, and I told my parents, I'm going to California for spring break because they knew I now had this new love for the place. Mm-hmm. I'll be back. But of course, I packed everything knowing I wasn't coming back. And I was so afraid. I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was ruining my life. I'm dropping out of college for the second time, mind you. And I thought, what am I doing? Why am I chasing this voice in my head? Why am I chasing this dream? And, I'm like forcing myself to drive onto the highway exit that is westbound and forcing myself to keep driving through state after state. Willie Nelson's On the Road Again comes on the radio. Yes. I'd heard it before, but never in this way. He said, on the road again, the life I love is making music with my friends. I can't wait to get on the road again. And that's what I was after. I'm on the road, and I want to have a life where I'm making music with my friends. And I arrive in California, and I had one friend in California who welcomed me, gave me a place to stay. And within 3 weeks, the relationships I had made through that one friend all connected to the life that I'm currently living.
Whoa.
And that's why I talk about this pivotal moment. It wasn't that I just decided to pursue a dream, but going with that flow put me into the same room with the people that I needed to be in the room with over the next couple of weeks that ultimately would change my life forever. That would give me the ability to pay off my student loans within 2 years and set me up for success as a songwriter. So I could go into more detail about those relationships if you like, but I knew once those relationships started to connect, I didn't have the fear of losing that comfort of school and that comfort of that plan that I had for myself. Instead, I was welcomed into the new plan, which was still going to be providing for me and give me the inspiration and the education to improve as a songwriter.
Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. I can't wait to unpack some of this. And I would love to, in a minute, fast forward to where those connections led and just the variety of things that you're doing now too. But let's go back to, you said you could not get that voice out of your head. And it was almost like there was another person in the room.
Right.
And what I think about is, like, for everyone listening too, when we have these ideas where it makes no sense for you to get on that, head west and logically you couldn't even defend it probably, right? But
Correct.
you still did it. And so now that here we are years later, 22 years later, I'm sure you've hit that moment again where logically the vision doesn't make sense or the gut feeling, but you do it anyway. Have you learned any just tips and tricks on when to listen the most or how to listen? Is it body intelligence? Is it, because it's like your head and your heart.
Yeah.
But so many of us don't get from idea to action because it's not adding up. Like, this doesn't make sense, but it's exactly what needs to happen.
What I feel when I get that voice, when I get that, like a new idea, it comes with it a glimpse of a possible future. And that glimpse, you hear about it and be very specific with your intention setting, be very specific on what you want to manifest, because that will help, all right? So occasionally when I get these ideas, I like to sit with that idea for a second and try to get a glimpse of that future. What does it feel like to have that project accomplished? Or what does it feel like to have that song written? Or what does it feel like to arrive in California? And it's a beautiful version of the future. So I have to think that maybe that voice is almost from my future self, giving me an invitation to, like, come this way. It's going to be okay. And it's easy to see, well, there's 3,000 miles between me and that goal, or there's a mountain between me and the goal, and I don't have the gear to climb that mountain. But I rely on the vision that I've had of the future self possibility. I do rely on that, knowing that if I just put in this work, I get to celebrate with my future self. And I've been in that situation now many, many times where I stand here and I'm so grateful to my former self for having the audacity to dream such a dream and to be so naive in thinking that we could succeed. But I'm so glad that my former self had the courage to do these things, because I sit now in that future seat in abundance. And I sit now in a life that is beyond how specific I dreamed it. And I still have the challenges on what I want to create going forward, but I know that it was only because I say it this way, like, I had the stupidity to think that I would succeed, but it required that kind of carefree, I'm going to put all my passion in this project regardless of how I'm taken care of on a day-to-day basis, because for me, that passion and that project is the reward. That's what I'm living for. I'm living to write the song. I'm living to have an adventure. I'm living to see the world. I'm not necessarily saving to see the world. I'm not dreaming of writing the song. I want to live doing those things, and by doing that, I get all the fulfillment that I need. And luckily, with that type of passion and that joy and that adventure also gives you the ability to trade those goods and services. It also gives you the ability to tell your story, which is an attractor for commerce to also exist and help you pay for your life, for your livelihood. I didn't get into songwriting to make money. I got in it because that's who I was. That's what I loved, exploring language and melody as a singer. But I also had to figure out how to make it sustainable for myself, how to also be in the songwriting business if I didn't want to have to have a day job to supplement my income. So I was determined to be a songwriter that was succeeding at songwriting, not just on the page, but receiving a paycheck as well.
Oh my goodness. So I have total goosebumps here. So in 2011, I came across Beautiful Mess, and my life was a complete beautiful mess at this time. And that compass, that inner data, the science that we have inside of us, the voice. If someone would have said, "What's your gut say, Amy Jo?" I would have said, "Should we get out a magic 8-ball? Like, what are you talking about?" I had muzzled it. And my life on the outside looked amazing. It was successful, but the inside, it was completely bankrupt. And just from an emotional standpoint and out of alignment. And I would run, and your Beautiful Mess was in this playlist on Spotify called Innovate Your Life in 2011.
Wow.
And I would run and listen to your song, and it just gives me so much, like the universe is always conspiring, because here we are talking right now, 9 years later, about that inner voice and how I finally started listening. And it's amazing how different my life looks now. And I walked away from a lot, but it's so interesting to hear, how as someone who's experienced what you have, success and abundance, your why not now idea comes back to that very critical moment of being able to listen. So I just want to thank you, but this is also very surreal, in a really interesting way. And let's talk about, you mentioned, there's a business side to everything you do, and looking at your new album, and also here we were a month into the pandemic, and then you signed a new deal too, right? You're experiencing.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, I imagine it was, all of this just was happening. But one of the things I read about your new body of work, Look for the Good, was it kind of started out as an experiment. And I believe when we experiment, we can't fail, right? It's an experiment. Yeah. It's a petri dish. So can you talk a little bit about how it came to be? I'm such an advocate of experimenting and playing.
Cool. Yeah. I knew I had wanted to make a reggae album for many, many years, but I'm not from Jamaica. I can only be a fan of reggae music. It's not really in my DNA, but I can be a fan of it. And through the years, I have found musicians, and more recently a producer named Michael Goldwasser from Easy Star All Stars, who is phenomenal in this genre. And I had finished up my major label deal with Atlantic. I did 6 albums with them. And I honestly thought I was going to just go into farming. I was going to just maybe slow down on my sort of competitive songwriting and do a little more farming and a little more soulful music that could be anything. Could be gospel, could be reggae, could be just yoga music, could be chanting. Like I wanted to go outside of the pop boundaries. And I started playing around with reggae songs with Michael, and it all just came together so fast because I guess how we were feeling about 2020, this was last year, 2019 that I'm talking about, and we were imagining what kind of world we were going to be living in, certainly leading up to the election and then beyond. And so the songs are about coming together, about looking for the good, about choosing love over war. But then the songs also still have that good old-fashioned wordplay that I love, and concept songs that celebrate what music is or what time is or the calendar months, etc. And all of those things I think are inspired by farming. But long story short, we ended up with these great songs and thought these are too good. And if I try to put them out on my website or my YouTube page, maybe not enough people will hear them. So I ended up shopping it around to independent record companies and partnered up with BMG, like the world's largest independent record company, who helped me get it out to all the fans. And as we were getting ready to put it out, the U.S. continued to have an education, as we saw with the horrific murder of George Floyd, and the movement for Black Lives, which had already existed but really gained momentum earlier this year. And what I saw was an opportunity with this record, this experiment, this music that was for harmonizing humanity. I now have this ability to put this music out. And rather than just have words and say, this album harmonizes humanity, I also decided I would take all the profits from this album and get it into the hands of programs that are actually doing the work to help harmonize humanity, such as Black Lives Matter, Equal Justice Initiative. Here in San Diego, we have Center for Policy Initiative. We have Rise San Diego, which helps build leadership specifically amongst Blacks for the whole community at large, just so there's more representation in the U.S. and in local governments, et cetera. So this was all a bonus. Like all of this surplus money that I was sitting on from this album, Look for the Good, came because we decided to have fun and experiment with music in the backyard and sing about the kind of world we wanted to live in. And then the byproduct of that was we ended up with some great songs, a lot of musicians, all coming together to have this fun. When I sold the album to the record company, I was able to have enough that paid for the recording costs, which meant all the musicians got paid a great wage. There were engineers, everyone. But then the surplus that the record company gives you is just sitting there, and it's meant to live on until the royalties are collected. But I didn't need that surplus, right? I've already set myself up in a way that I'm doing okay. And again, this album was just an experiment. So now with this surplus, I was able to award that, and I will award that going forward indefinitely as this record continues to generate eyeballs and ears listening. It will continue to generate royalties, of which we will distribute specifically for the Black Lives Movement. And it's separate from my own foundation, which has its own work. I wanted this album to become its own foundation, but it was never really the plan from the beginning. The plan was, let's just make great music and have some fun and do something new. And the ability for this album to serve on so many levels has become the greatest reward, that I never imagined.
But you remained open, and it's like an innocent idea that you played with, experimented. I love that. And it's still business. I look at, you have your Mraz Family Farms. You have these different facets. By the way, my husband just ordered a bunch of chocolate.
Oh,
and
cute.
I'm like, yeah, we're excited for that to arrive. And such a passion for farming. I'm guessing that is the genesis as part of that systemic drive from Farmville? Or would you say was in your roots?
It has to be, because both of my grandfathers tended gardens or small orchards, and I was too young. They didn't necessarily teach it to me, but I was old enough in my youth to be able to climb those fruit trees, and to be able to zigzag my go-kart through my grandfather's okra and tomatoes and peppers, and see the benefits of those fruits and the neighboring farms contribute their fruits and vegetables to our dinner table, right? And that was enough to have an impact on me as an adult. So once I moved out to the country as a musician because I just wanted to make a lot of noise and not have a neighbor on the other side of my bedroom wall. And what I did not anticipate was where I moved is actually an agricultural area that is under pressure from sprawl and development encroaching on it. Apparently 20, 30 years ago, where I'm living was mostly agriculture. Now it's agriculture and housing, and it's not too far in the distant future where it's mostly housing and a little bit of agriculture. In worst case scenario, it's all housing, and occasionally there's an avo tree in somebody's backyard. So I felt like, you know what, maybe the trees called me out here to help be a steward and a parent and give them a voice, and be a new generation of farmer who can bring innovations and new techniques and just a passion for the environment to give life back to the planet through carbon sequestration, water sequestration, but also just general stewardship, because trees themselves aren't going to just produce fruit. You really have to interact with it. You have to feed the tree. You have to prune the tree. There's weed and pest control even, which we do organically. So there's a symbiotic relationship that has to happen between farmer and fruit tree in order for it to really work. But trees and humans go hand in hand because they breathe our carbon. We breathe their oxygen. So right away, there's a marriage there, and that's really special. But I moved out here to make noise. I did not anticipate getting so involved in farming and agriculture, but I love that I have. And I did it because I was inspired by other farmers and seeing what they were creating, how passionate they were, but how their voices weren't very amplified, and how even all of that work wasn't being met. All that input they weren't getting back what they were putting in. A lot of farmers are breaking even or just coming in just under, and they rely on loans and hopefully tax breaks and some relief and subsidies even, just because the farmer has so much in California going against them that it's hard to compete with the rest of the world. So now I'm in farming, and I view it as a game because I've been somewhat entrepreneurial with music, knowing that I need it. Look, if I'm going to be a songwriter and not have to have a day job, there has to be a certain amount of showing up and performing and hopefully making tips at the door or busking enough hours to make some money to pay my bills or pay my car or whatever it is. And that kind of entrepreneurial spirit, it wasn't just songwriting. Before that, I was mowing lawns as a kid, and my dad gave me a $6 a week allowance, which I thought was brilliant because it's enough to go roller skating, but it's not enough to go out and like wreck your life. If you want more, you got to work for it, So I had my $6 a week allowance, but I also learned how to mow some lawns and provide other services, which as a young person was quite cool, It taught me that if I worked hard at something or I could trade some time, which is our most valuable asset is our time.
Absolutely.
If I could trade that, then it would give me the freedom and time that I want to do for my music. And so I learned entrepreneurialism very early. Is that a word, entrepreneurialism?
Yeah.
I learned to be entrepreneurial at a young age. So I was able to apply that with my music. And now coming out into farming, I'm trying to do the same thing, where I'm recognizing all my startup costs, but looking at a long-term vision where my music is not what's paying the farm worker, it's the actual fruit tree and the crops that we're growing. And it's been a blast. Because of my platform in music, a lot of farmers or committees in the state or even national level want me to be a part of that because it helps give a voice to these fruit trees and to farmers who don't usually have a voice. So it's pretty exciting.
Oh, it's incredible. And that was my next question is, do you identify as an entrepreneur? And there we go. I loved what you said earlier about storytelling being an attractor to commerce and how that goes across any industry, any trade. I mean, it's obviously as a musician, there's probably even more of a double down there. But can you talk a little bit more about that? I mean, you are an entrepreneur in a variety of ways, but how storytelling can help that pathway to monetization. I always talk about humanize to monetize. Like first we got to connect and those connections will convert. But just as an entrepreneur and business person, what advice would you give to someone who's really focused on storytelling and sharing their why and their who?
Oh, and that they're into it already. They're into storytelling? Yeah,
no, let's say they have a new business or they're really looking to connect and show up and show why they do what they do and who they are. And they're just not maybe they don't feel skilled in storytelling.
Sure. It's a challenge because I know that even on my own farm, our own landscape, I should have the camera with me all the time because there are so many beautiful little moments that are worth capturing and sharing with our followers, our fans, our customers. And it's hard, because you want to feel great. I want to feel like, well, I didn't shave today, so I don't think I'm going to turn the camera on myself at this angle or whatever. And I realize I can be limited when I don't share. But there's so many platforms these days too, and each platform has kind of a different way to play with it. Instagram is very different than TikTok, which is very different than Facebook, which is very different from having your own blog or your own website. And all of that needs attention. And you could also get bogged down doing that and forgetting to do the actual work that the farm provides. So I have outsourced my help. I have a friend and neighbor who helps me manage the farm, Rachel, who is a beautiful voice for our farm. And she does the Instagram and Facebook posts for me because she's intimate with the bees. She's intimate with the flowers. And for me, it's okay to delegate that storytelling, knowing how vocal and passionate and intimate she is with the trees here. But in general, telling your story to the fan or to your follower, your customer, is so important because it's you who get to enroll them into just how special this product, this situation, this story is. I had a friend that used to sell on eBay, and he would sell the most random things, but he said it's all about the description. If I describe this in the most beautiful way, I have no problem selling it.
I love it.
And I think the same can be said about anything. We grow coffee out here now, which most people didn't know you could even grow coffee in the U.S. or in mainland U.S. And one of the attractors is the story. Just the fact that it's new is such a beautiful story. Never mind it's delicious, but before people even know it's delicious, when they hear California coffee, they start to picture palm trees and the beautiful setting sun and the warmth, and all of that goes into the cup that someone is going to be drinking. So by the time they get it, they've invested in the story before they've even brewed the coffee. But when you sell a concert ticket, you put up the poster of the concert, or you send out an ad and you play highlights of the show and the songs, and right away we've told the story of the kind of experience you might have when you come to this concert. So the concert begins when they buy their ticket, or maybe it even begins when they see the ad for buying the ticket. So that is a storytelling. A lot of businesses are startup. I have a friend who just started a coffee truck, and he's 3,000 miles away in Virginia. I'm here in California. But I get to watch him repair the truck, build it up from the inside out, install the coffee machine, and now drive out to events. He's called the Local Cup, by the way. If you're in Richmond, Virginia, look for the Local Cup coffee truck. It's delicious. It's kombucha and coffee and some snacks.
Ooh.
But to watch that story, to be an underdog who, gets a loan to buy a truck, builds it up, and now has a line around the block for his coffee. That's a story I want to be a part of. And thanks to his storytelling, here I am on your show promoting his business because he made the effort to tell that story. And I get to be a part of the story because he's telling it. So it's not easy to do, to turn the camera on yourself or make sure you make notes every day to tell your story, but it is so valuable. I think coffee, our value in coffee right now, because people haven't tried it, is the story, more so than it is the coffee itself. So storytelling is very, 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 very important. And I know I could talk about this all day long, by the way, because I'm a songwriter, I'm a storyteller.
Go for it.
But even if you have 0 followers, right? Maybe you have 5 followers and they're all your family and friends. It's going to help you see the path you've been on. It's going to help you see the journey you went through from start to present. I don't believe we're ever final, so I never say start to finish. I just say present. And you get to look back. My storytelling happens for me personally in a journal. I've kept a journal since I was a teenager, and it's for no one else but me. But now I can go back through volumes and volumes and read who I was and the struggles that I had and the successes that I had that I've forgotten about, but they're in my journal, or the questions that I asked myself, or just the days that I wrote to pick myself back up and get myself out of a darkness or a blockage. I don't believe in blocks. I don't believe in writer's block. I don't believe in being stuck. I just feel like there's always something to write about, even the experience of being stuck. So if that's what I'm having to work on right now, is I'm working on being unstuck, that's something. You're not stuck. You're learning how to work through that energy block or whatever it is. So I love storytelling for that purpose of being able to look back on, wow, look how far we've come in a year. And thanks to the pictures I took or to the paragraphs that I wrote about where we were a year ago, I have something to really show of how much we've accomplished since then. So storytelling is important on so many ways, internal for your own business, but also external, public facing for your followers to see, wow, this person's really going for it.
Thank you for that. I was just talking to someone yesterday who's in transition. They work in the corporate world, and they were told, you need a transition tale. And it's like literally a phrase now, like you need to be able to explain your transition tale. And I was like, isn't that so true though? Because how important is it for someone to get to know you and your story versus, I was doing this, now I'm doing this. No, I want to know what's in the middle. I want to know the between part. So that was kind of interesting. But what you said about, just to bring it back to social for a second, you said, you have to be out there doing the work and then telling the story, which means capturing content, but also being present at the same time. That is a juggling act. And so I think that's where a lot of the potential dissonance happens with social. That's one of the things that I focus on with some of my students is how to still remain present and capture that moment and enjoy it, yet put that content in your back pocket that you can go mine and play with later. Because it's so, there's a self-awareness about capturing the story for your own self, right? That reflection and self-awareness leads to that self-actualization. So for no one else but you, it's kind of like real-time public journaling.
Right.
I love that you have all of your journals from the past, and I mean that's really life data. I recently went back and read a bunch of mine too, and how informative that can be to capture. What's one thing, Jason, that you find yourself learning over and over again?
Good question. That my life can change in a phone call. And it doesn't have to be a phone call, but I know that I've learned that my life can change in a moment. So with that, what I keep relearning is if I ever find myself starting to worry about money or worry about where's my next project going to be, or did I make the right call on this farming adventure we're on, blah, blah, blah. Like this, I guess, doubt, fear, whatever might cloud me, instead of giving it my attention and identifying with that and giving it even more weight, I trust that I'm not final. And that's what I keep learning. I keep learning that I'm not finished, and that time and time and time again, something happens that completely changes the outcome or the expectation or that I was having. And that could be as something as a God event, like suddenly it's raining and now I don't have to worry about the water bill this month. Like it's that cosmic. Or my phone rings and I get invited to participate in a new project that I did not even think I was eligible for. But now I have this new inspiration because someone likes the skills that I have that could contribute to this other project. And it's happened time and time again where projects show up or gigs come up for me that I have plenty of things that I'm dreaming up of that I want to do, but I didn't realize that there's things other people are dreaming up that they want me to do. So I keep relearning that my life can change at any moment and that I'm not final. And it helps me to relearn that because every now and then, I don't know why, but every now and then I don't panic, but I'll get this little anxiety of just like, oh gosh, like, have I chosen the right thing? Am I going to be able to do this project? Do I have the finance? Do I have the means? Do I have the energy? And then something comes along that gives me, or you know what? It's even as easy too as just waking up one day and having the idea that I need to work on my own project that has been on my to-do list for a long time. Like I always wanted to write a song about taking the long way home. Like there's something about that I love. It's just a feeling about taking the back way and just getting away from the traffic lights and working my way home. And it was on my board for a long time. And now this story isn't about some life-changing or crucial event, but I'm just trying to make an example that it was up there. And I thought, how am I going to write that? How am I going to write that? And it took a year. And then suddenly it just hit me one day of like, I was writing something else and I realized this is the song I've been waiting to write. And that song it's called Long Drive. But rather than panic and say, I can never write that song and I'm never going to, it arrived for me one day and my life changed and I was able to finish that song and now it's a part of a show and it's on the albums and it has a life. But rather than sweat it and think it would never happen, I just trust that I'm not final and my life will change again and again and again and again. So I don't identify with doubts and fears.
Amazing. And the word trust kept popping up as you were talking because it seems like you do trust the process, trust the experience. Would you say you have bouts of imposter syndrome? I mean, maybe it's...
yes.
Okay.
Whew.
And how do you navigate those?
In many ways, I have to prove it to myself that I'm not an imposter. Does that make sense?
Totally. I totally identify with that.
I still have all the same songwriting friends that I had when I was working in the coffee shops, but I got opportunities thanks to relationships that I had in the industry that basically turned me into a global songwriter with an audience around the globe. And our lives look very different, at least in our housing setups. But all my songwriting friends are the same, and in that I feel like well, I'm no different than him, or their songwriting is far superior than my songwriting. But I got these opportunities to help, I guess, amplify or even exploit my songs. So with that comes this I feel imposter syndrome a lot. I've never heard it called that, but I do. I feel like, gosh, what loophole did I find? And so that could diminish my work or diminish my value and I might want to try to start playing things down or hiding some of the opportunities that I have. And I've struggled with that through the years. Instead, now I'm trying to open my heart and open up my opportunities to include others so that they get those opportunities as well. And I try to be more transparent with how I've made my successes so that I don't suffer from I'm an imposter and instead share well, no, I showed up and I wrote all of these songs, which is not an easy thing to do. And I made myself available to work with these major distributors and these major PR firms around the world to help me do those. And whereas some other songwriters may choose, I don't want to go that route. I don't want to sell out to that degree, So I realized I can't put myself in the head of others. I can only have my own experience. So I don't have the imposter syndrome as much anymore, but yes, it still shows up for me because songwriting for me is very easy. I just love sitting down and improvising a song. And when you improvise an idea, it feels like, well, is there any training or is there any research that went into that? Can you back that up
too
anyway?
Easy?
And it's like, well, it's just this thing that I can do. So when it's easy, yeah, it feels like you faked it or you're copying something. Yeah.
Oh, that's so interesting to hear. And kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum, have there been times where, you have a massive platform and have lived a very interesting path thus far and will continue to. Have there been times where you've checked yourself and said, I might need to get a little more grounded? A little humbling season?
Oh, yeah. Many times. The farmer wears, I should say I wear many hats. And through farming, I've learned that everything has its season and its time. So in the winter, everything's fallow and dormant. But it's what's happening is underground, things are rejuvenating. And in the springtime, we throw out seeds and a bunch of things come up. And in the summertime, we decide which of those things, those ideas we're going to really focus on and cultivate. And in the fall, we take all those to market and we sell them. And then in the winter, we have hibernation and we sleep and we regenerate. Same thing for music, I found, is I'll start by throwing out a bunch of ideas. I'll write 100 songs and realize, okay, these 10 are great. And I'll turn those 10 into something that I really focus on and I record. And then comes time to take them to market and share them with the world. And then after that, you have to go home and regenerate. You have to go back to sleep. You have to go read some books, write in your journal, process what's been done, so then you can start that process all over again. And if I don't take that downtime to regenerate, I start to just repeat the practices of spring and summer, repeat. And then what happens is you run out of nutrition, you run out of soil health to grow what you're trying to grow. And it will result in a breakdown. And it's happened a couple of times, not violent or anything like that, or any way that's harmful to myself, but enough for me to just let my booking agents and managers know, guys, I am done. I can't answer one more question. I can't sing one more song. I have to go home and do my laundry. I have to go home and shop for groceries, work in my garden, be what I call a normal person, and put my feet on the ground so that I can tour around the world on these other seasons and speak like a real person. Because if I just live in hotels and airplanes and airports and my feet aren't on the ground, then I lose perspective of
relatability.
And relatability, yeah. And irrelevance is now, thanks to this pandemic we're living through, irrelevance and with social media exploding the way it has, I think that's something we all have against us right now, or we're at war against this great irrelevance that is coming. And so having the opportunity to put my feet on the ground and dive in. The first time it ever happened was around 2005. I did 2 albums back to back, just writing, touring, trying to win fans, trying to get on the charts, all that. And I was like, I don't know who I am. I don't have a spiritual path. I don't know what I like. I don't know what I want to eat. I was just kind of numb. So I took all of 2006 off, and I dove into literature and yoga and some personal travel. And by 2007, when I'm writing songs and traveling again, I created the first work that really went global. That included I'm Yours and Beautiful Mess. And I know that came from taking that time off to do the work, to do the personal work, which gave me the strength I needed and the perspective I needed to write the kinds of songs that would fill me up, that would make me feel like I had a purpose. And since then, I've tried to repeat that kind of schedule. When an album cycle is done, I go home and I read and I work on my garden, and I try to figure out, well, what's my purpose now? Like, if I'm going to keep making music, what is its purpose? What am I creating a package for? What am I creating a CD and a vinyl and this artwork that has these songs? Like, what is its purpose? And that's very helpful to take some time off to figure out what that purpose is.
Oh my goodness. Absolutely. And in terms of you have so many different things that you're working on, and they all do come together in their own way. But what's one time management trick or tip that you use to make the space for all of this?
More recently, it's a new one for me, and I've been wanting to learn piano, and I've said it for years. And I made sure now I have a piano in almost every room, so there's no excuse.
Oh, wow. I just saw your Instagram post, too, when you played the piano after the election, which was amazing.
Oh,
Thank you
thanks.
For that.
Yeah. So for me, that was like, just make sure I play for 10 minutes a day. Just, have you done your 10 minutes on piano today? Have you done your 10 minutes? And usually it turns into 30 minutes, because once I sit down and start doing it, I remember, oh, yeah, this is beautiful. And when I do a little bit each day, I notice the improvements very quickly. Whereas if I space it out and I only play on weekends, I don't improve as fast, because I have to relearn what I learned the previous week, et cetera. So my newest thing, and it's not time tested, but my most recent thing is like 10 minutes a day. And that can include guitar, piano, journaling, reading. It's easy to give something 10 minutes of my time. Prior to this fun little 10 minutes a day game that I've added, I play a songwriting game with a few fellow songwriters where we have to write at least one song a week.
Oh, cool.
And we use
together
Tuesday,
or each?
Each.
Okay.
But someone will send out a prompt, right?
Oh, this
maybe
is so rad.
maybe the prompt is 20% off. Like, it's just guessing, but it can be that random. It could be one word. It could be a phrase, a full sentence. One more morning was the phrase last week, and we all have to turn in that song by Tuesday night at midnight. And what that is we become a group, a support group for the accountability required in songwriting. That way, we make a date with ourselves at least once a week to write that song, and then we email it to each other. And we don't even have to listen to the songs, and we don't review them. We don't say, great job. It's just, if you don't turn in your song, you get kicked out of the group. And you don't want that. And the result, I've been playing that game since 2006. The result is you get at least 52 songs a year. And
Times how many people are in the group?
Oh, it varies. I think there's 12 in the group right now.
Oh my gosh, the body of work is huge.
Now this is championed by a guy named Bob Schneider, who's a brilliant songwriter in Austin, Texas. And he has several songwriting groups that he's in. He himself has written thousands of songs because of this model. And what it does is it makes sure that at least once a week I'm practicing songwriting, because I have to make a date with myself to get that work done. And because of that, I go through the week, viewing the world somewhat poetically, because how then do I want to weave my story into this week's song? It keeps me journaling. It keeps my pencil sharp. It keeps my instrument in tune. That way, when a truer, more urgent message comes through me, or I'm working out on the farm and I start to sing a song to myself, I'm ready to write the song. I don't have to go find my pen and find the instrument and practice songwriting. It's something that I'm already practicing. So one of the most beneficial things I've ever done in my songwriting career for time management is write one song a week and have someone hold me accountable for it. Someone saying, "Where's that song?" Because I end up turning in awesome and crazy ideas, but it also makes me ready to write even more songs when my heart is calling for more. So I always encourage people just to keep writing. Just write, even if you don't want to, or same with practicing. Just give yourself that 10 minutes, because 60 seconds in, you're going to go, "Oh yeah, why didn't I do this sooner?"
Yes.
I'm that way with going to bed. I hate going to bed. I love staying up and continuing to work and kind of pushing my edge and creating something. And then by the time I get in bed, I go, "Oh, I should have done this hours ago. Why didn't I just get in bed?" So yeah, same
Exactly.
with piano and all my tasks.
And there's something about, is it called myelin in your brain? That there's a book called something code. But anyway, they studied the most brilliant musicians and people at the top of their game, kind of these geniuses. And the way you practice and the more you practice, even in small bursts, tightens the stuff in your brain. I'm so not a scientist, but it makes sense. Even your 10 minutes a day with piano,
It does,
because that repetition, it gets in your bones, and you can, that inertia is going. Okay, so let's wrap us up, Jason. Let's say here we are, you're 21 years old, you're entering that exit, you're headed into this journey, headed west to California. Willie Nelson's playing, and it makes zero sense, but you're doing it anyway. What would you say to your younger self in that moment when you're in your car, if you could go back and say something?
Gosh. Regardless of the success, I knew that I was on an adventure. That's what was giving me the wind to travel. It's like, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know who I'm going to meet. I don't know if I'm going to have a band or be a successful songwriter, but I am on an adventure, and my journal, my personal story is going to benefit from this. So in summary, I guess I was saying, like, you got this, because I'm giving myself a lot of different possibilities as an outcome. And I love possibilities more than any other term, because it's just possibility. And that possibility looks great. And if that possibility doesn't work out and I get a different result, well, then a new possibility opens up. It's just this sort of ongoing yes that just kind of keeps morphing into another version of yes. So I knew that, hey, at the very least, me driving out to California and me feeling this and crying at the wheel, this is something. This is important. I'm lucky that I'm even in a car. Kerouac and guys before me had to do it hobo style in train cars during the Great Depression and all that. Like, I'm lucky enough to be in a vehicle, warm and safe and making this journey, even though it felt so scary and I felt so vulnerable and so alone, and I was risking everything. I also knew that I was gifting myself all of these possibilities and these new words and new emotions and things that would contribute to my songs. So I guess in summary, you got this. That was the thing I would be telling myself. It's like, okay, you got this, Your head's in the right place. Your heart's in the right place. And so you got this. You're going to be okay.
Sounds like a cool song title. I love it.
You got this.
You got this.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much. This has been a just incredible poetic experience for me, especially the role your music has played. So thank you, and keep going. And we'll keep following for sure.
You know what's funny is I thought I was going to be done. I thought at 40 when my major label deals were done, I thought, okay, I've been through the industry now. I'm going to try a different industry. I'm going to try a different attitude. And something just keeps pushing me to I think the joy of creating. I love to create. And if I'm going to create, I want to also find a home for my creations and include others in that expansion as more and more things get created. So I keep going and continue to create and signing new deals and agreements and joining new projects. And I have to laugh because I heard the comedian Maria Bamford recently say, when people ask, what are you working on? What are you working on these days? She goes, oh, I'm done. I finished early. And I laughed and loved that so much because I'd love to be in a position where I could say, I finished. I'm not doing anything anymore. I finished. Yeah. And I'm just going to sit on my porch and read. But even sitting on my porch and reading for me starts to get that inner narrator going that makes me want to write songs, that makes me want to go sing, and makes me want to share the information I'm reading. So one day I'll need to do a podcast about having to, when are you going to rest, Jason? Why not now? When are you going to learn how to just slow things down?
Now? Yeah.
Why not stop now? Yeah. So,
well, it's like people talk about find your why, but oftentimes it finds you and it just will not go away, right? It'll come back and find you again. Mm-hmm. But I'm glad. This is, it's fascinating to see how you've been able to innovate and mix these different areas of what you're interested in and passions and purposes and skills.
Thanks.
And thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Can I read you one more thing? Because
Absolutely.
you've been so kind to say I have all these projects and I spread my energy out here and there. I want to read to you a vision statement. I have my music business. Mm-hmm. I have my farming business, and then I have a foundation. So I have three operations, I would say, and 3 teams. A team around music, a team around farming, and a team that helps me with the foundation, which the foundation serves inclusive arts education and the advancement of equality. So we're out there working with specifically arts education groups in helping them either launch programs, stay afloat, get the visibility they need, give them grants, scholarships for their students, even so far as making sure the students are eating, because a lot of these programs are just there to really give students opportunities as well as meals while they're in these programs. So how did these three coexist is for music, farming, and this foundation? How do we all 3 coexist through me? And so I brought everyone together. There's about 16 of us in the 3 different teams. We all came together and we co-authored a vision and a mission that really works for all of us, for music, farming, and the foundation. And our mission is breathing life into blank. So anything we do, we are breathing life into it. And the literal definition for inspiration is to breathe life into. So we set out to inspire. We want to inspire each other. We want to inspire people through our actions. If they see our farm, they leave here inspired. If they listen to the music, they are inspired. If they join us on any of our foundation events, they're inspired. So that's what we're here to do. We're breathing life into anything we do. Our vision is that a global shift in consciousness has occurred in which all people have the same rights and opportunities to grow, love, and learn. Dreams are being fulfilled. And so that vision obviously will affect our voting. It'll affect where we spend our time and our money, et cetera, and who we support. Regeneration is the model for living, working, and playing. A new paradigm for health and well-being prevails, and Mother Earth is honored. So everything we do in our farm, our music, and our foundation has to include a model of regeneration so that we can sustain these types of activities for both the planet and the societies that live on the planet. And lastly, communities are thriving and supporting each other, infused with and celebrating the magic of the arts. People are contributing their unique gifts and experiencing freedom, wholeness, and joy. Life is inspiring. So our 3 teams use that vision to, we all do very, very different jobs, very much different set of skills. But we all do it under this shared vision so that we feel like our purpose is all contributing to each other's personal visions and personal missions. And that's really important. So when I delegate in music or farming and I delegate tasks to other people, I know what their vision is. I know what their mission in life is. And we're all actually working and feeding each other at the same time as this one larger vision. So that's how I'm able to actually spread out my energy, is because I know who I'm working with, and they know what I'm up for, and I know what they're up for, and it just gives us all a better sense of being, I guess, well-being.
And so wise, because all boats are going to rise with that tide of those 3 different, anyway, and not compartmentalized. But as people are headed into 2021, whether you're listening as an entrepreneur, an individual, someone who works in corporate, planning is happening. How did you do this? Did you sit everybody in a room? Like how, if we were to reverse engineer, that's a lot of,
yes,
that's a big thing that you accomplished with a lot of people. I mean, with different business units.
So it was quite simple. It was quite simple. We asked each person to write down 3 to 5 things that they really care about, that they want to see for the world 10 years from now. Like what does the world look like in 10 years? So each person wrote 3 to 5, and then we put them all up on a projector screen or a big white dry erase board and saw everything, read everything, and then started to delete the redundancies. So if we all said the same thing twice, let's make sure we only say that once so we all agree on it. And then then we started to reduce the redundancies and get it down to just a few important things. Then we could start to really play with the specifics and the adjectives to make sure that the farm team got their language in there, and to make sure that their representation. So it was a group effort, all looking at the board, and we all had to be in agreement with it if something got erased or added. And we would go around one person at a time, and each person would make a suggestion. And it took a couple hours, but it's something that everybody felt great about. And I still feel great about it, We did that over a year ago, and it affected how the reggae album was not only launched in the world, but now what it serves. Today we met with the state ag board here on our farm. I mean, we're able to live and breathe our mission into ears that are going to go back and sit on committees in the state that are going to make choices that affect the small farmers and the landowners and the farm workers. So thanks to having that vision, it helps us with our decision making and how we are going to show up in the world.
What integration?
One big board, lots of hours, just a few hours, and asking everybody to contribute to it. What's that?
The integration is it's incredible. And literally tomorrow, I have an offsite meeting with my team, and we're doing some planning and vision work. And so I'm going to borrow your template.
Oh yeah, please do.
Let you know how it goes. I love it. It's so wise. Everything can be leveraged for good. It's just so wise. So thank you again for your time. This is such a wide-ranging convo, and
it is.
I loved it.
Thanks. It's tough because I'd love to stay in the music field, but I'm also way into fruit trees. So and that's not everybody's cup of tea. Oh no,
it's the perfect and why not, right?
Why not, right? Thank you so much for this, because every time I get to share, it gets me out of my journal and kind of gets me on the microphone in a new way. So thank you. It gives me perspective on what I've learned so far, and who I get to be, and how I'm communicating, and how I can improve, and all that. So. Thanks.
You bet. It's been a career highlight, so thank you.
Oh, shucks. You've had some great people on your show, so I'm honored to be included on this lineup. Thank you so very much.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now?